So, first of all, ladies and wives, I want to say to you that your husbands are different than you. And I know you've heard that before, but do you really believe it? Have you reckoned with that truth? Because there's a part of me that just gets it in my head, but doesn't fully know how to apply it. And God really has made our husbands different than He's made us. And so, one of the things that has helped me is get a deeper revelation of this is when I realized that God has actually given different directives to a husband, different commands to a husband than He has to the wife. And so, therefore, because he has a totally different design, because He has a different plan in the marriage, a different role in the marriage, and therefore He has different needs than a woman has. And our culture, our Western culture over these past decades has really, it's true, women were downgraded for so many centuries, but in these past couple decades, it's kind of been this all warped thing where everything is all Hallmark. And it's all about the woman's version of love. And it's made it very confusing for women to know how to love their husbands, because when we say love, we think of pink hearts and Valentine's, and that doesn't really speak to a man's need. And so we want to try to unpack what those words respect and honor mean, because it's not our language. We don't actually speak that language without learning it, so we don't speak it naturally. So if you really want to energize or motivate your husband to love you better, this whole energizing cycle we started talking about last week. When you respect him, it motivates him to love you, and when he loves you, it motivates you to respect him, and it goes around and around. And that is all very true. And if you want him to feel love, then you need to go outside of what's natural to you, and you need to discover, study, become an expert at how to really speak your husband's, I'm not talking about love language, his native tongue of respect. You need to find ways that hit him where he needs it. So honor and respect.
We were talking about this a little bit, and I was thinking, you're not going to get to that energizing cycle if you're meeting the need of your husband that doesn't actually exist. And what I mean by that is, like, you're trying to meet this need in him that's in you, but that actually doesn't exist inside of him. He has a different need. And so if you're trying to meet this need that doesn't exist, it's futile, right?
So wasting your energy and time.
So and that happens, of course, on both sides. A man is trying to meet that need for respect that a woman doesn't have, at least in the same way that a man does, and vice versa. So, yeah.
Yeah. So tonight we're really only going to be able to touch the tip of the iceberg with any of this. We have 6 main topics that we would and could teach on, and they could each take 15 minutes apiece. But we want to just touch on the first 3, and really, like I said, it's just going to be touching on them, and we'll have to find more time, another time, to really, really go into these, because it's so important and it's so needed. Like I said, our culture really supports the Valentine Heart Hallmark movie version of love, but we have lost the art of honor and respect in so many ways as it pertains to a marriage relationship. So
right. Yeah, and that's a good point too. Like, we're really talking about within the marriage relationship. That's what all of the context of this is. So the first one that we want to talk about is how men have a need for you to appreciate their desire to work and to accomplish. And this is from Genesis 2:15. God commanded man This was before Eve was created. God commanded man to work the garden and to take care of it. And so we have this need to accomplish and to conquer and to subdue the earth.
And that's totally different than us women. Like, we just approach it really different. And it's really important that we understand a man's need to accomplish, and that for them, their work is a part of who they are and what they accomplish. It's not just a task. It's for them, it meets a deep need inside of them. To accomplish something meets a need. And I know that, yes, we have that to a degree, but it is different for a man. It's about subduing. It's about conquering. And so, like, even just doing home tasks, you know, there's that thing of, I did this thing that I'm not trained to do, you know, like, and
which is most home tasks.
And I think even the frustration level,
tasks.
Opposite, like when you can't do it.
Yeah.
Your frustration level is about because you couldn't conquer it. It's not because you're going to have to pay somebody. It's just, you know, I mean, that's always a factor in it, but it's really about, I wanted to accomplish this and I couldn't get it. And so,
you know, one of the things that I was thinking about as we were talking about this, and we haven't talked about this, so I hope it's okay. It's always dangerous. But like, there are a lot of times that I'll be in the middle of trying to accomplish something, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm working through it, and it's taking longer than Kim wants it to. And so she will often like be ready to move on. Let's just move on, and maybe we'll come back to this later. Maybe we don't even need to get this done, you know. And I'm like, it's got to be done. I need to finish this. I need to conquer this. I've just about done it. I'm 90% of the way through. I've got to conquer this thing. So
yeah. So it's really, really important that I begin to understand that that's his need, and it's his design to accomplish, to conquer. We've seen this come out before, like, in how we're different, and I know this is somewhat about personalities, but not really. So, when we play games, Jason pretty much wins most of the time. That's just how he is, and he just wins. So it kind of is not so fun for me. But then when we're like playing games as a family, you know, especially when our kids were little, it was like, why are you just beating them? You should help them win. And he's like,
why would I do that?
I don't understand. I don't know what you're talking about. So it was part of they needed to see their dad's position, their dad as, I mean, it's not
especially when we were like when I would wrestle with the boys.
Yeah, it's about accomplishment and conquering and taking territory, like the game Risk. I hate the game Risk, but they can play it for hours, all of our boys, and I'm like, I don't get it. But it's all about taking territory, and then like, and what you're saying with like when you're wrestling with the boys, for you to win, they totally feel great about that as well. For you when they were little, now they want to win.
Well, yeah.
But so it's just different. So different than how women are designed. Of course, it's more than games. But you really need to appreciate their desire to win, their desire to accomplish and conquer. So anyway,
yeah, that's good.
Our next one we want to talk about. You want to go ahead?
Sure. Men have a need for you to appreciate their desire to protect and provide. Galatians 5:25 says, "In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself."
You know, in many cultures, when a disaster or an emergency situation comes up, it's usually said, "Get the women and children to safety." You know, men are designed to die for something or to die for someone. Just like, I mean, that's the biggest heroic moment is when someone gives their life, just like Jesus did. And many heroes, you know, when they give their lives, and that's just the inward working of men, and
it hits a place in a guy's heart. Like, it's like when we were talking about this, it's just like that. Just really, it's powerful. It's a powerful place in a guy's heart to sacrifice, to lay down your life, to protect, and to provide. So
yeah, women, we lay down our lives in a totally different way. And it's like, it's just in the sacrificial way of, well, I'm going to do all these things for my children, for my husband, and my needs will go unmet.
Right.
But that's not really about me actually giving up my physical life. And that's what...
Taking a bullet.
Yeah. Like, I think about the Inside Out movie. It's that...
The imaginary boyfriend.
And they have this machine that produces an imaginary boyfriend, and the only thing he can say is, "I would die for Riley."
I would die for Riley. I would die for Riley.
So
I would die for Riley.
Like
it's literally the only thing he says.
That's just like programmed into a man's DNA. So, provision and protection. There's passion in them for these two things, and most of the time, their job is directly tied to these two passions, especially the provision part. This desire to work and provide for the home can often become a source of tension in marriages. And for us, this was true for a lot of years of our marriage. Jason has been self-employed for most of our marriage, and
which sounds like, oh, well, that's great. He's always home. But it's actually, for us, it was harder. Like, I wasn't away, but I was present, but not available.
Yeah. And so there was a lot of pull, and we also homeschooled for when all the kids were little, so we had a home business and homeschooling, all the stuff happening at home, and he was pulled in many, many directions. And you remember last week we talked about the woman's need for direct attention. And so I would come into the room, into his office,
and this was me.
And I would say, I would ask him a question, and...
Oh, okay.
He would answer, and then I thought we talked about it,
we didn't talk about it.
So anyway, that would like take a hit. Part of it is I really wanted him to look up from the computer, give me that direct attention. Am I not worth looking at? Remember, that was the question last week. Am I worth looking at? And it takes both sides, give and take, and a lot of work on both sides, because it's taken a lot of years for me to realize that's not about me at all. It's not about how he feels about me. It's about his need to provide and to stay focused and to finish and to accomplish, but to work. And so my response to that is to appreciate that need inside of him instead of compete with it. And that was, or be offended with his lack of attention to me, and so it really took a while. Sometimes it rears its head, but for the most part.
And I want you to catch too, like the phrase that we're using is to appreciate the man's desire to protect and provide, because there have been times when I have not done a great job at providing, in at least according to my estimation, or protect. I haven't done well. But it's recognizing that desire inside of me and saying that's valuable and that's important, and I see that that passion that you have to provide and to stay focused on your task and your job.
Yeah. Tell about that one time, the gift that was the birthday present that I gave you that one year.
Yeah. Gifts is kind of one of my love languages, or at least it has been. I think things change over time, but at least in that season, it very much was. And we had been really battling this thing of, I don't feel valued in the work that I'm doing. I don't feel like you're valuing me. She wasn't feeling valued, of course, with me not paying attention to her when she would walk in the room, and so. It was a real source of tension, but she, for my birthday that year, she bought me stuff for my office. She bought me a table and chairs, and it was kind of a bigger gift. It was kind of, I don't know, it was more expensive than outside of what our normal budget was for that. And so for my home office, it was like a little place we could do a little coffee thing in the corner, with the table and chairs. And it was just, it really hit a place in my heart, because it was seeing me, it was seeing that heart need that I had for to be valued in what I was doing in terms of providing for our family.
Yeah.
So
It's taken me a lot of years to get on board with that. So I wish I had known sooner about all of this, because I think that one has been one of our major repetitive problems over our marriage, and I think a lot of us, as I said, you've been self-employed, working from the home, at least to some degree. It's a mix.
Right.
It's always been a mix.
well, and I think because it doesn't make sense to your heart why that would have such a deep place in my heart. Like it's easy to discount the other person's heart passions because they just don't. It's not your mother tongue. It's not your native language, and so another one of those is men have a need for you to appreciate their desire to analyze and to counsel.
This is rough. Last week we talked last week about husbands, how important it is for your wives to just be able to talk and to unload and verbal process about something without feeling like she's being fixed. We talked about that last week. And that's like a release that's really important to them. But women, we need to understand that men have a real need to give counsel. It's like the design, how God created them to analyze things and to give counsel. It's important to recognize the value of his counsel. And so sometimes the conversation has gone sometimes like this, where let's say you share about your day or a certain dilemma that you're having, and he begins to give you advice and to help you with your problem. And you get upset and say, I don't want to be fixed right now. I just want you to listen. Which you're talking about your need, but what if in you talking about your need, what if the conversation went something like this instead? You begin to share about your dilemma and your day, and he offers his advice, and you could say something like, that is very insightful. I want to consider all of that. Would it be okay if I just talk a little bit more right now? I think I just need to vent and to get some things out. And this works best, of course, if you have conversation about it, like together you talk about how this process works for both of you, for both sides. Because like I said, it's give and take on both sides. A wife cannot always expect her husband to be able to listen to all of our emotions and to all of our problems, especially when we're not going to let them give counsel and analyze things, And so there are some times when we need to just take our things to the Lord, and sometimes, but we're not saying never do this. We're just saying have consideration and be open to counsel. Even if it's not what you're looking for, if you're not looking for an answer, still be open to their wise counsel. We heard a statistic this week that women who weren't looking for counsel from their husbands, weren't looking for advice from their husbands, and their husbands gave it anyway, 80% of those women said that it was wise counsel. And so it's just recognizing that, appreciating their counsel, their discernment, even if they don't understand it all from the girl's perspective. The reality is we need different perspective, because our emotions are all involved in it, and we need an outside perspective to help out every once in a while. So, and
it's about submitting to one another. Like that's I really like that definition and that understanding of what that scripture means of submit one to another, because there are times when I'm going to submit to what Kim's need is, to just go ahead and verbal process, and there's times when she is going to submit to my need, and it is a need to be able to offer counsel and to analyze this and say, well, what about this, and to problem solve. And And so that's kind of a really, I think, valuable way to look at what does submitting to one another really mean. It's submitting to their needs and helping and building up your spouse.
Yeah. No matter what point you're hitting on or what way you do it, your goal is to show appreciation. Whether it's doesn't matter exactly what you decide to appreciate. Men really need to be appreciated and valued. They need it through gestures, like that gift that was
right.
Related to your work, or they need it through verbal just all the, I don't know if it's like compliments or what kind of ways, what kind of things show appreciation is it to you?
And a lot of times it's kind of like what we talked about. For me, it's a lot of about my tasks. You know, it's, you really did a great job doing this, or, but yeah, I think the whole shoulder to shoulder thing, we didn't go into that, but having shoulder to shoulder time with a guy is really important.
As
with your
opposed
husband.
to face to face, the women need face to face, and men need shoulder to shoulder, and to say that shoulder to shoulder time is not about talking.
Right.
It's about being with and doing something together. When you're dating and you're in your whole courtship time, you are suddenly interested in all kinds of things that he's interested in the same way he's interested in what you're interested in. But if you could conjure that up, that interest up, like, hey, if he loves football, watch football with him. If he loves to go fishing, I mean, there are some things that are specific for, they need the time alone. We all, we all need our time alone, and we don't want to
infringe on that.
On the alone time. But there are some things that there is more camaraderie when it's done shoulder to shoulder without a lot of conversation. So
I think it's so important to recognize the value in it. Like, you know what I mean? Like the same way that a guy might not understand, why did we just spend an hour talking about one subject? Like, we could have accomplished that in about 30 seconds. We could have, everything we just talked about this past hour, we could have done in 30 seconds. Why did we use all those words? I don't understand.
Yeah.
In the same way that a man has to value that way of thinking and that understanding, a woman needs to understand, we just sat and watched the grass grow and didn't do anything and didn't talk for an hour. We could have had so many words. We could have used up a whole day's worth of words for that guy. we could have talked so much during that time. No, that was valuable.
That could be the thing that really fills your love tank.
Yeah.
Well, that's, like I said, we're just barely scratching the surface of some really, really important topics, but it's still hopefully enough to make you think and to have some good conversation together. I know that seems to be on Facebook, it's mostly women who watch all of this, and so I'm really hoping, women and wives, that you begin to tweak some of your thinking about, why is your husband valuable? How do you show him? How do you appreciate him? What kinds of things does he need you to appreciate? He needs you to appreciate his work. He needs you to appreciate his ability to conquer and his desire to conquer and to have headship. That's how the Lord designed him to be. And he needs you to appreciate his counsel and just all kinds of things. So ask your husband, what do you really need me to appreciate about you? What things, when I appreciate you about this, and it just really does it for you,
right. Yeah. So, I think asking a guy, and he may come to you a week later and tell you what it is. Because it may take a while, to really think about it, because we don't naturally think about what is it that makes me feel a deep sense of respect and a deep sense of love? What is it that makes me feel that respect? I think that's a great question to ask your husbands this week, ladies. So let's pray. Why don't you bless the ladies especially? And
Lord, I just bless marriages to thrive from both sides, that it's not a one-way street, that both spouses are coming at this with a strong desire to show love and value and honor and appreciation, to really change how that person is feeling about life by their own actions and words. And so, God, I just speak life into marriages. I speak love into marriages. I speak honor into marriages and respect into marriages. And I also ask, Lord, for the church, for the body of Christ, to really take hold of the real definition of respect and submission and honor, and how it's that we would get away from this warped thing that the church has been under for so long, and so that men can have the honor they deserve. And I thank you for the special, amazing design of how you designed men to function, and what you've called men to do, and the needs that they have, and that wives can be the ones to meet those needs. In fact, sometimes they're the only ones that can meet those needs for their husband. And so I just bless wives to think outside of the box, think outside of the culture, and to find ways to honor and to appreciate their husbands in all the ways that matters to their husbands, Lord.
Yes.
Thank you, Lord.
I just want to add one more thing that I heard this week that I thought was so profound, and that was, I think a lot of times when we talk about respect, we think of it in terms of what we deserve, and you may have heard other women, or you may have said it yourself, my husband doesn't deserve my respect. And in the same way that I need to give Kim my unconditional love, she may not deserve my love right now, but I am going to lay down my life, and I'm going to love my wife. In the same way, I need her unconditional respect. And I just thinking of it in that terms just really helped me wrap my brain around this a little bit more. So I hope that helps you too. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you guys later.
Okay.